Hello everyone and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's mostly pretty good and maybe one of the best movies of all time, or something that's completely freaking terrible and is probably one of the worst movies of all time. Today's review, actually, this week's and next week's videos will be uh a bit of a kind of like a double feature. Um, I've been really getting into a certain director that, as far as I know, has only made about 4 films, I think. In his entire career, and his two most I guess more successful ones, in terms of critical reception, um, are gonna be what I'm gonna be talking about over these next two reviews. Well, today and then next week. Um, and his name is Alex Proyas, and obviously you guys can tell by the title of the thumbnail. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Crow, released in 1994. And then, like I said, next week will be another Alex Proyas film. And, um, by the way, both of these are going to be from the 90s. So today we're doing The Crow. Next week we're doing Dark City. So, but for this week we are going to be doing The Crow. Um, Now, just to give my brief history on this film, I've heard about it for years. And if I and I have of I have heard of the troubled production of this film, which I will go into depth about that in a little bit. Um, and that its main actor did tragically die during the production, or near the end of it at least. Um, which is a very sad thing to hear. And um, and again, I'll go more into this later on, but people were saying that this film was a cult masterpiece. Um, and if you guys want to figure out my opinions on it, stay tuned for the end of this review where I will be talking about that. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna be talking about uh like I said, I'm gonna be talking about the production of this film in a little while. Um, but yeah, let's go over some of the details. So this was released on May 11th of 1994 with a budget of $15 million. Domestically, it made over 50 million, and worldwide, it made over 150 million. So yeah, this was a giant success. Um, and so let's go over the plot. So the night before Halloween, the musician Eric Draven, played by the late Brandon Lee, and his fiancee Shelley Webster, played by Sophia Shyness, are brutally murdered by members of a violent inner city gang before their wedding the next day. But on the anniversary on the anniversary of their death, Egg rises from the grave and assumes the gothic mantle of the Crow, a supernatural avenger, tracking down the thugs responsible for the crimes and mercilessly murdering them. Eric eventually confronts head gangster Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincock, to complete his marriageable mission. Now, from the way it sounds like, this is a typical, well, not a typical, but this is a spirit of vengeance kind of film, and you are right about that. Um, like I said, you know, this couple is murdered, and now um, the husband has come back from the dead, basically, and to go and kill these gangsters. Um, and um, um, it, this is like a tough movie to talk about without getting a little emotional, because once you start learning about like the behind the scenes tumultual that was going on, and I'm gonna start getting, like I said, I'm gonna start getting more into that when I'm starting talking about the cast and stuff like that. Um, but it's a, whew, it's hard to discuss. Um, so I guess I should might as well just start talking about this now before as I'm going along before and during when I'm talking about the cast. I'm not gonna go super into depth about this cuz honestly, I mean you guys have seen my videos. I don't really like talking about um Trouble Productions that much cuz it really kind of just it just makes me feel weird talking about this sort of thing, and plus many people have talked to death about these sort of things. um I will leave about like one or two videos down in the description below if you guys want to not only get other people's opinions about it, but also to learn about the behind the scenes trouble that happened. Um, but suffice to say, um, I think the go as far as I know, um, in terms of the trouble, like this was a one of those where it wasn't like an Exorcist or like the Omen where it's like that where it's like a cursed horror production, but this was a very, I mean, I guess you could say this is one of the most cursed uh, productions ever. That wasn't a horror movie. And but actually, it's probably the most trouble production that it was not a horror movie. I mean, because like I said, you have The Exorcist, The Omen, Poltergeist, Alien 3. Um, just but I guess to go over some of the details. Apparently on the first day of shooting, there was a crane operator uh had electrical wire and it electrocuted him very badly. A Several people have like fell through roofs apparently, and the obvious one is the main actor, Brandon Lee, who plays Eric Draven. Um, he was unfortunately shot and killed near the end of production. Um, it was like I said, I don't want to go too into depth about this because I don't really like talking about this sort of stuff. I just want to give my general opinion about this, and like I said, there will be a couple videos down in the description below to talk more into depth about it. But apparently, when they were doing some, apparently apparently there was a bullet lodged inside the inside one of the barrels that no one checked to see if like there was any obstruction or anything, because the gun expert that was hired for the film was sent home early, so like a prop assistant took over handling of the guns, and like I said, he didn't check for any obstructions, and um um because basically what filmmakers use or do for films that involved a lot of gunplay back then was that they would use like live rounds, but like not they wouldn't put like the actual bullet inside. They would just fill it up with like, I'm assuming, gunpowder, so like it would give off the same effect, but it wouldn't actually shoot the person, or else that would just be terrible. But like I said, there was a bullet lodged in like because there was a 44 Magnum, and apparently there was a bullet stuck in the barrel. So when the shot when I don't think the shot was used in the film, because obviously it probably would have been uh very graphic, but I think it's the scene that it happened. I think it was the scene when it's like the flashback scenes in the film where Eric Draven comes back to his apartment and sees his fiance being beaten and raped, and Fun Boy, uh, sh- uh, in the flashback shoots him with the 44 Magnum. And of course, like I said, the shot wasn't used in the film, but I always mention that it's like that's the moment. That's the moment where it's just bang, and it's done. Um, and it struck Lee in the chest, mortally wounding him, and he was rushed to the hospital. And I think it was 4 hours of surgery. Uh, but he wasn't saved, and he was pronounced dead in 1993. Um, uh, Strangely enough, this was also around the time of the production of Dragon the Bruce Lee story. Thankfully, both the Dragon the Bruce Lee story and this film are both dedicated to Lee, which is it's really sad that this happened on the set. Um, but um, like I said, is just a horrible thing to think about. Um, but um, but yeah, Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, wait, what is there else to say about it? He just I'm like when I think of Brandon Lee, I always think of The Crow. Like I know that he did like some Hong Kong films before this, and like he did like Rapid Fire. He did Showdown in Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren. But like even in those films, I don't really see Brandon Lee. Even in Rapid Fire, where he's like the main character, I don't see Brandon Lee. But like when I'm watching Showdown in Tokyo, always like I see Brandon Lee, but I'm just focusing on Dolph Lundgren. With this, it's just Brandon Lee. Like putting all of his effort into this role, and it's just sad that he couldn't he could have gone and done like great things, but he was just taken from us way too early. I think at the age of 28. Um, and it's ironic that I mean, cause I think everyone knows this, but Brandon Lee is the son of the legendary Bruce Lee, which all of these, including End of the Dragon, which I unfortunately don't have. But like, who doesn't know Bruce Lee? I mean, I can understand that people don't really remember Brandon Lee, but if you're a fan of like martial arts films, you have to know Bruce Lee. But but yeah, Brandon Lee was the son of Bruce Lee, and it sucks that both of them died at kind of actually young ages. I mean, Bruce Lee died at the age of 32, and like I said, Brandon Lee died at the age of 28. So it's very sad to like to understand that like I'm gonna like I do want to do like a marathon of like all the Bruce Lee movies at some point when like once I get Enter the Dragon. But I'll go more into this when I cover Enter the Dragon. Um, but like I think Bruce Lee died like 6 days before the release of Enter the Dragon. Um, Even though Dragon the Bruce Lee story, I think it claims that he died 3 weeks before the event, before the release of Enter the Dragon. But like I said, that's for a different review. But I I I don't I just remember I watched this movie and I just see Brandon Lee. I don't think he's playing a character. I just see Brandon Lee, and it just shows that how much um how much how he could have gone and done great things, and that he was taken from us way too soon. Um. Uh. Okay, I'm gonna try and move on. Without getting all emotional here. We have Rachel Davis as Sarah. She did a great job with this uh with the role. Um we have Michael Wincott as Top Dollar. Um you know Wincott, he stars in like a lot of stuff that really not many people talk about. Like I think he popped up like in like I think the third season of like the Westworld reboot. Um, as well as several other stuff like from like the 80s and 90s. Um, but yeah, it's like but he does a great job with this. We have Bei Ling as Michelle, who is Top Dollar's sister, I think. Um, who is very into magic, and when she figures out about Eric Draven and the Crow, she wants them to like have this power. We have the great Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Albrecht. I mean, it's Winston from Ghostbusters. Um, but uh, like he also starts in like a lot of like B movie stuff like Leviathan, No Escape. Um, you know, um, he does great with the role. Michael Massey as Fun Boy, who like I said earlier, was unfortunately the one that did kill Brandon Lee. Um, and I actually have I'm not really I guess the fun fact is about that. Um, about like the scene. We have Lawrence Mason as Tintin, um, who is he really only is in like the first act, and then he's dead. Um, but he was a he was a fun character. David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, Warriors, you know, um, like Warriors. um, uh, yeah. Um, Angel David as Skank. Like he talks like million miles a second. I don't know what the hell I just said. Um, he's funny. Um, and and T Bird, he David did a great job with that as well. Uh, John Paletti, Plato as Gideon. Gideon, I think that's how you say it. Um, um, he did a okay job with the stuff that he's given, even though he's really a minor character, really. And then finally we have the great B movie actor Tony Todd as Garage. I think that's how you say it. But like Candyman. He also played Worf's brother on Star Trek: The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Um, as well as Tales from the Hood 3. Um, I believe all the Final Destination films. Like a lot of B movie stuff. And yeah, so I mean, like I said, this is a very hard movie to talk about. Um, but yeah. I guess I should start talking about favorite scenes in the film. I mean, cause I think probably the first one would probably be the fight with Tintin. Um, well, actually no. Well, actually, really quickly, before that, my first favorite scene is when Sarah visits the graves of Shelley and Eric, and that piece of music that plays like, oh Jesus, That made me cry the first like the when I watched it for this review, and I I've heard many people say this, but when that track plays, because I think that it plays that scene when she's dropping the flowers at the beginning, but then also at the end when the crow drops her the ring, like the wedding ring, that piece of music that plays, like, oh my god, like I don't. If I hear that piece of music, I think of Brandon Lee. Like that's like Brandon Lee. Like that's all I think about when I hear this piece of music. And oh my god, dude, it makes me so emotional when I hear that. Like, oh my god. Um um but my second favorite scene, like I said, is the fight between Eric and Tintin. Um just because like well, that really isn't really a like an entertaining fight. Until like I think like when like I mean like like I was watching it because I obviously had to watch it for the review. But I was like, okay, not that interesting. But when Tintin goes like you should meet my friends, like, and he pulls out like the two knives and like we never miss, and he throws it and Eric just dodges it and it just hits the window. Like, oh, bro, dude, you're so screwed. And then um, my next favorite scene is when he encounters Funboy. When he's when he's making out with Darla, which is Sarah's mother. Um, and he just pops in, he just like Eric just appears in areas, like like for example here he just appears in the window. Um, and then he pulls up the chair and he's like, "You got me, Zeg Bank." And then because like when in the scene where well before even the Tintin fight, there was a when he came back to the apartment and like I said earlier about the whole death of Brandon Lee, it happened near the end of production. It wasn't at the very end, so they had to go and because the everything with Brandon Lee wasn't shot yet, so they had to use a double for some of the for some scenes. And when Eric walks into his hotel room and starts having the flashbacks, that was a double. Um, and when he's applying the makeup, it's a double. And I think when it's like shot to the mirror, it's Brandon Lee's face superimposed onto the mirror. Um, and um, it's it's very convincing. I mean, it's obvious when it's a double because it's like they're like it's kind of obvious because like they're hiding his face. So it's like okay, that's the shot of the double, and then there's Brandon Lee. But uh, uh, but like I said, going back to the scene when because he's having the flashback of when he and Shelly were murdered, and like I think he was shot and then he was thrown out of a window, and so like he grabs onto like the top rail and he like swings out, and like he comes back in and he realizes that his hands are like cut because of the glass, but then he realizes that he can heal. So let's say like if someone shot him, he would feel it, but then he would immediately like regenerate. But like yeah, when he when he goes up to Funboy and he's like, "You got me, dead bang." The Funboy shoots him in the hand. He's like he just turns around and he almost like looks like, directly at the camera, like being like, "Oh," and then like look at the, like you can tell that like he's just like screwing with Funboy because he's like and then Funboy's like just laughing like maniacally, and then like he looks through like the wound in his hand, and then he starts like quoting like what happened to Jesus. He's like he asked for 3 nails, and what he say? And he like Funboy shoots him in the chest. I was like, why don't you fucking die? And he's like, when you gonna hang me up? And it's like, oh Jesus. And then like after he disposes of Funboy, when he grabs Darla, and because Funboy injected, I think, morphine into Darla, and when he starts squeezing it out basically to Darla, and he starts going Shakespeare, and it's like, oh Jesus, and it's like, oh Brandon Lee, why'd you have to die so early? um, and then when he finds T-Bird, um, and when he parks the car, and he starts like tying him up with duct tape, and like he's like, I remember you. There ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back. And then I mean, cause like and then Skank is he when he finds him, and it has like after that whole shootout, and his Skank's over there, Skank's over there. Um, I think I watched a video of someone reviewing this, and I actually noticed when they pointed out that that each person that he killed was tied to what they were. Like Funboy played with his knives, so kill people with his knives. So what Brandon Lee does is like he stabs him in every single vital organ in alphabetical order. Um and then T-Bird uh was killed by his drugs. Um because when Tony I it's so hard to call Tony Todd's character to actually trying to pronounce it because I don't think they ever say his actual name throughout the movie. Uh I'm just saying Tony Todd. That he um um But when Tony Todd finds Funboy, you just see him on the floor of his apartment, and just a whole bunch of needles in him, and it's like, damn, that's brutal. T-Bird was killed by my because he's a speed freak, so and his explosives, so he was driven basically off of a edge, and also and he died by his explosives. Um, and then Skank. Well, no, Skank. Was Skank a speed freak? I don't know. Um, I think I know. I think it was Skank that was a speed freak, and T-Bird died by his explosives. Um, and then Top Dollar died. I mean, obviously because he's like the main bad guy. He doesn't really pop up until like almost like halfway through the film. But yeah, he died. He dies on like a very brutally, like impaled on a devil, uh, devil statue on a church. I forgot what the line was, but he said something about uh, that like each person has like a. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think he said like something along the lines of um that like everyone has a devil watching over them, and so because of that, he was killed by a devil, uh, so to speak. Um, and uh, I guess that's. I mean, I guess the final scene where Eric returns to his grave, um, and then he meets Shelly, and then they return to the grave, and then uh like I said earlier, when Sarah comes back to the grave and the crow drops her the ring, and that fucking score that it plays, like I cried. Um, uh, when that song played, but I think my overall favorite scene would probably have to be before the church finale, is when Sarah has fallen asleep in the graveyard, and um and Eric returns, and he gives like the ring on uh like the ring on like a necklace, and he said that like he gave this to Shelly, and she thinks that Sarah would like this a lot. And then they hug, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, I cried, I literally cried, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, this is so sad. Um, and so yeah, um, I guess to really go really quickly over the releases, I think this film, I mean, because technically this film was supposed to be distributed by Paramount, and then they backed out because of I think delays in the shooting and reshoots, as well as the graphic content of the film, especially after Lee's death. Kind of was to them like, maybe we shouldn't put this out, and they backed away. Um, and apparently from some reports this was supposed to be direct to video. But basically after Paramount backed away from distributing the film, Miramax came up and we're like, okay, here's like an extra like 3 million or like 8 million. Go and reshoot the things that you need to get this movie out, and it was basically distributed under I think Dimension Films uh, for for the theatrical release, and obviously this was a huge success being, I think it was marketed as being Brandon Lee's last movie, so that was a big part of why it was such a huge success. I think this film very has been treated very good on home media. um it did get a Blu-ray release around 2014, which is the same version that I have here. This is the Walmart exclusive edition with the rental slipcover, which I think this is a really cool design. So you have like the actual like title on the one side, and then on the other side it's like the label that you would have like on a VHS, and then there's the back, and then under it it's the original 2014 release, and then I think recently in like 2020 it got a re-release, um, which I believe is the base. I believe it's the same as this edition. Um, um, Special features included audio commentary with director Alex Proyas, a behind the scenes featurette, a profile on James O'Barr. Which, yes, this is technically a comic book movie. I forgot to mention that earlier. This is based off of a comic book released in 1989. With written by James O'Barr. Extended scenes, deleted footage montage, original poster concepts, storyboards, and the theatrical trailer. Um, so actually a pretty good release. Um, I would honestly love to see this in a true 4K, uh, on a true 4K disc, cause I think the film would look great. Uh, but even like this Blu-ray looks great. Um, the picture transfer is very good. So even if we did get a 4K, I mean, I think the picture would look fine. Really, I just hope that like um it would have like some new special features to worth having a 4K edition besides obviously the improved picture and stuff like that. Um, but uh I mean, yeah. I guess I can go over the fun fact is uh Michael Mancy, which I said earlier, played Fun Boy. Even though it wasn't his fault. Now this is the fun fact, by the way. So even though it wasn't his fault for the death of Brandon Lee, Michael Mancy took a year off because he was so traumatized by the incident. he wouldn't make a return to film until seven in like '95. Um, yeah, like he took like a year off because of how traumatic the experience was. And unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago. But he would recount. I think his is his interview on here. I don't think there is. Uh, it might be on the behind the scenes feature, but um, he would tell stories about like how he was still haunted by the experience. Um, and the music was composed by Graham Revell, who was a he's a very frequent composer that I think he does great work for not so great movies, and but also like some movies that aren't really talked about that much. I think he did the U.S. soundtracks for Police Story and Police Story 2. But he would also do the American score for Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan. Again. But he also would do um the same year as this he did Street Fighter, and then next year he did I think he did Sudden Death with Van Damme. Um, which ironically was also in Street Fighter the movie. Um, I th- uh, so he is a very good composer that works on movies that not many. I mean, people talk about it, but it's not like Batman standards or something like that. But the score for this is absolutely fantastic. If you guys could, I think there's download links for the original soundtrack by with his music only. Um, but if you guys can try and get that either physically or download it, try and hunt it down because it's one of the it is a very fantastic score. And like I said, like the one piece that plays at the beginning and at the end, when Sarah returns to uh, Eric and Shelley's grave is absolutely fantastic. Um, and so yeah, that's really it. Final thoughts. This is a I think this is a near masterpiece, near cult masterpiece. Because I mean, like, yeah, like not really many people talk about this movie, but it's also like it's it's a film that people appreciate a lot more as of now. So, and like I said, I think it's a near masterpiece. So I'm gonna give this film a 9 out of 10, which I would say is a A. Which, by the way, before I end today's review and go on to like the end card and stuff like that, Um, I will be not only be having like the seasons up for movie reviews. I'm also gonna put reviews in letter categories like an A plus, A minus, and stuff like that. In case anyone wants to find a specific review and they don't want to have to go through an entire season playlist, they would probably be right there. So I'm gonna have to go and sort through all over 60 episodes now that I've done of this and see which movies that I classify for um uh each of them. Um I mean even though I wouldn't discuss I mean I guess the score for like out of 10 kind of is already kind of a ranking system in terms of letters. The 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 actual like playlist would actually kind of indicate to them like oh like maybe this is kind of like a crap film, but love to see him rip on it, but that will be coming up later today. So yeah. So I'm gonna give this film a 9 out of 10, which is also an A. But yeah. So anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this review. You can click over here. And click on my beautiful face to go to my channel and make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon for notifications when new videos are coming out. Or you can just click on the my channel name at the bottom, the bar below, and also hit that subscribe button and the bell button there. You can click over here for my channel update as well as the Sonic review. And stay tuned for next week where I'm going to be discussing Dark City. So really excited to talk about that. But anyway, guys, hope you guys have a great day, and stay tuned for the next review. Live long and prosper. Out.